I'm Anthony Wright, and I am your co-host today on the Living Conversation with,
Adam Dietz, welcome everyone.
and we are here with our guest, Dean Graves. And Dean is an author, podcaster, keynote speaker, mental health counselor, and meditation and mindfulness guide. And I think what I would be interested to learn about you, Dean, first is what's your basis for your excursion into these areas?
The basis for my excursion into these areas is, I guess, triggered by an experience that we are all programmed to have at some point in time or another.
Uh-huh.
And that experience is often referred to as an awakening,
Right.
which is an often misunderstood concept. It is nothing more than that point in our lives when we come to the awareness that all the stuff, all the things that we've been doing, may be providing us with what's deemed to be conventional success, but it's not making us happier.
Right. So is this,
And
go ahead, sorry.
go ahead. Yeah,
Well,
and
I was wondering about is this based in Asian philosophy or Western, or do you even classify it that way?
it is a universal experience that we are programmed to have.
Uh-huh.
Certainly, the interpretations and the preparation for that experience differs greatly with Western philosophy from Eastern philosophy.
Right.
But the end result is ideally the same.
Okay. Um, Adam, you had some questions about uh, Dean's mindfulness
Well, the first
basic.
thing I wanted to circle back on, Dean, is very interesting that you say we're programmed to have this awakening experience. And we had a previous guest on maybe a month ago or so, Dr. Nick Egan, and his expertise is in Tibetan Buddhism. And he
Mhm.
mentioned something that was very curious, and it reminds me very closely of what you're mentioning here, that in Tibetan Buddhism, there's a thought that we all have an enlightenment experience, and it comes to us throughout our lives. And in fact, when these traditions, they're so detailed, he actually said that each person has that experience to the point where it adds up to a certain amount of time in everyone's life, somewhere around 3 years. So I was wondering if you had any
Huh.
thoughts connecting that or how that relates to your work, if at all.
Well, yes, the teachings of the Buddha, however interpreted since their presentation, um, are strategic to all of our awareness process. Um, we all we exist as humans. We exist in both the metaphysical world and the physical world simultaneously. Our enduring self is our metaphysical self, which is a consciousness pattern. It is not a physical being as we perceive ourselves to be. We experience a multitude of incarnations. The average human has, by this stage of our experience in creation, has experienced over 3,000 incarnations, many as much as 8,000 incarnations, and they're very purposeful. They are how we learn, and what we learn during an incarnation accrues to our metaphysical self and modifies, reforms our consciousness pattern. And the consciousness pattern is what is actually on the evolutionary path. The evolutionary path is synonymous with the Enlightenment path. There's no difference between the two. Enlightenment refers to light by virtue of its name. Light is information, and light informs energy and how to be. We are energy, and by virtue of the experiences that we have during an incarnation, we shape this consciousness pattern uniquely, as our incarnations are unique in and of themselves.
Mhm.
And so, consequently, by having this type of experience, we fulfill the purpose of creation. and
Hmm.
our individual purpose as a participant in creation.
Lovely.
Okay.
I guess I would want to know, Dean, um, one thing that comes to mind is that this reminds me a little bit of something that in our background we learned it as being and non-being when you talk about the metaphysical.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Consciousness pattern, I think, Anthony, maybe you could speak to that later. It's very interesting and it has a lot of relatable topics to us as well. I also had two thoughts. One, first of all, I'd like to hear about your experience in, early adulthood and how you started to come to these realizations, how you decided this was part of your path. But before we get to that, I want to touch on something that I've thought of before where sometimes I feel like the incarnations, since we can't 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, we can't really experience them. Sometimes
Hmm.
I feel like the karma is almost like John Lennon's instant karma, where we have all these incarnations in our own life. Or in a Zen way, it's like we have so many moments. We have maybe a million incarnations even in this life. So, one, I'd like to get your take on that, of the sense that maybe every moment is almost like a new incarnation. And second, I would love to hear more about how you went from, adolescence into adulthood and where this kind of struck a nerve with you at the earliest stage.
Okay. Well, and answer that fairly quickly. My um, teenage years and early adolescence were as chaotic as everyone else in the world. It's intended to be chaotic
Okay.
because we are um, the nature of the human experience is when we are born into an incarnation, we have a set of chakras. Our
Mm,
consciousness pattern has a set of chakras, and our incarnate self has a set of chakras. And they are, for all intent and purposes, they are independent of one another. A chakra is nothing more than an assessment point of a level of consciousness.
mm,
So when we are born, we exist within a range of consciousness. That a range of consciousness is very low on the consciousness scale. We are third from the bottom in that consciousness scale, and it's called third density. We are learning the curriculum of third density in anticipation of graduating to the next range of consciousness. The first and second ranges of consciousness are nondescript. So,
uh,
what is learned by consciousness participating in those ranges of consciousness essentially is not preserved in an individual being's evolutionary advancement. The first range of consciousness is what we would consider to be inorganic matter,
mm,
but it also begins with fire. Fire is the lowest range of consciousness.
mm,
The second range of consciousness is what we would consider to be plants and animals, organic matter.
mm,
Those both are foundational densities because they are necessary to exist in their own uniqueness so that we participating in the third range of consciousness can have a platform in order to have experiences.
mm, mm,
And so they are very strategic to our experience of creation, but they themselves are not considered to be as potentially informational for creation as our range of consciousness. Our range of consciousness, by far, is the most intense range of consciousness because we have adequate awareness in order to assume responsibility for our progression through the range of consciousness, but we're not smart enough to know how to do that.
Okay.
And so it makes it very intense. The first two ranges of consciousness are considered to be foundational.
Sure. Yeah.
There are multitude, every planet out there is at least a first density consciousness.
Mm,
Many of them are first and second density consciousness, and time is required for them to create their uniqueness to initiate a third density range of consciousness. None of these developments are arbitrary. They are all determined to be ready for a new experience within creation. There are um, 32 archetypes of the creator, 5 inherent characteristics, um, and 26 other distortions of those 5 inherent characteristics, of which free will is one. Free will is the originating distortion that allows creation to begin
Mm.
and to develop as it has begun. As philosophers, I'm sure you're familiar with the multitude of debates as to whether we have free will or don't have free will, which has been reoccurring over the history of mankind. The problem with that argument is it misunderstands free will. The decision to be able to choose to turn right or to turn left is a product of free will. Free will is the perception of separation.
Mm.
And so, because we have the perception of separation in our range of consciousness, autonomy of a being, we have a multitude of choices, even in interacting with one another. But it is through those interactions that we are provided with the opportunity to explore ourselves.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so free will is the first originating distortion of the of creation that allows creation to exist.
Mm.
And it is the tool that creates consciousness. Now, as far as going back to your other question, after my teenage chaotic years and going to university, and beginning to actually pay attention to my studies for a period of time,
Sure, I
and
can relate.
found philosophy and began to study philosophy, and was greatly um, intrigued primarily of Kant's conclusions of our inability to actually experience the world. And that is more foundational than I think most of the philosophy world realizes, in that it discounts the authenticity of the physical world experience entirely,
Mm.
and um, and which is reiterated by the Buddhist teachings as well.
Right. Right.
Um, So that with that understanding, it was a breakpoint in as humans understanding of who we were, and potentially gave us that opportunity to develop our perception of self more accurately.
Mm.
Well, I am very interested in how you've come to these ideas. We have to take a short break, so we'll be back in just a moment, so stay tuned.